45 on May 3rd. I'm going to call the Tilton Northfield Fire Commissioners meeting to order. Present are all three commissioners, Chief, Kathy, two deputies, and from the public, Kevin, Kate, and Lisa. Martin, thank you. I just was missing it. So. All right. On the agenda, the first thing we had was a public comment. Do you have any public comments before we go to the correspondences from the either?
No.
Okay. The next one we had was Kent Fenimore, who's not here. Did we have something in writing from him?
No, he said he wouldn't be here probably until 6
Okay.
or so.
So we'll come back to that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We'll move along to correspondence. We received an email from Paul Blaisdell. I believe it was interest in joining the fire station committee meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Is that in the packet, Chief?
No.
No letter
Okay.
in the
It
packet.
was just an email.
Yep.
Was that from you, Catherine, or was that?
I forwarded, yes.
It was sent, it said, building committee, May
Yep.
2nd.
Monday. Yep. See below from Paul. So an email from Paul to Kathy. Hi Kathy, please accept my willingness to be a member of the facility committee to fill a vacant position. Thank you, Paul and Blaisdell. That being said, put it out to the commissioners since it's the commissioners appointed the people to it. Commissioners in favor of Paul Blaisdell joining that? Someone want to make a motion if you are?
I'll make a motion to
Accept.
Paul Blaisdell
Okay.
onto the building station committee. Not just accept it, but.
Yep.
Can I, just a few questions. How many people on the committee now?
Well, I'll second it first and then we can
Okay, go ahead.
comment.
I'll
Okay,
second.
okay, Paul seconded. Okay, now we'll go into
Okay.
comment about it.
How many people on the,
I get count, yeah.
John, myself, Kevin, Tim, Matt, Derek, and Lisa, 7.
okay.
But we're short participants from Northfield because by the bylaws, it's supposed to be equal representation.
So we are short in Northfield,
And I believe Paul is
and
from
he lives in
Northfield.
Northfield.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, good questions.
No, that's all I,
Okay, any other conversation about it?
No, I was just.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor of Paul Blaisdell being accepted and joining the fire station committee? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? And abstain, none. So it passed.
I'm gonna add, I counted wrong, I left out the chief, so we have 8.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
He's not voting though, right?
unless you guys give me a vote, I don't have a vote.
Okay. Chief's report. Jump into that.
So, moving forward, I forwarded you the chief's report yesterday. I hope you all had a chance to look it over. Do you have any questions?
I did not get a chance to look it up. I apologize. So he is-
Okay.
he's-
I did notice on the budget portion of it, it's showing, even though we have budgeted like 700,000 and we use some of it, it's showing up as over budget, like negatives. I don't know if it's something on that. This was on apparatus and equipment replacement funds. So I don't know if it's a formula issue on it. I highlighted.
Okay.
That would be the apparatus one. So in the sheets, it would, if I printed that.
Like in the front.
Yep.
Yes.
Negatives?
Page 1. So if you go down to per dollars over budget, is that just the formula of how it is? Like the very first one, 4689 minus 4689,
Yes.
even though it's budgeted and we haven't used any?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make sure that that's.
Just, I saw that in a few spots.
I'm
I just,
like, what?
yeah. So it's probably a formula thing, but it's under budget on those items, so that's why I wanted to make sure. Okay. Keep going real quick. Inspection. 14 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 inspection.
Bad steel.
What?
It was bad steel,
Oh, in the springs?
yeah.
What did you have them done with?
They knew. They truck knew.
L1?
Yeah, it's only 12,000 miles on it.
Oh.
But the steel that used back in the springs was pulled from China or something like that.
There you go. Is it good?
Well, I just, on the tower here, I got a question on that. Did they predict any date when they're gonna be done or anything, or? And
I
the
don't
other
have-
thing is problems, have they had any problems?
So they did strike water when they did drill, but that taken care of that issue. The other issue, and which was expected, is when they went down, once they got down a few feet, there was like 15 to 20 feet of like soil conditions that they described to me as jello, but that was expected.
And they've corrected it?
They changed their foundation design to accommodate that. Yeah.
No prediction date on it?
Well, they drilled, one hole's complete, they're drilling, in the process of drilling the second hole. There's 3 holes that they've drilled. They go down 68 feet down to bedrock. Then they put a rebar cage in there, and they fill that with cement. That has to cure for a period of time. I'm not exactly sure how many days before they can start erecting the tower on it. I don't know if it's 10 days, 1 day, 30 days, but I don't have an estimated timeline. of
I didn't know
when
if they
it's
give you a general idea, like next month, the month after,
finished.
next year?
No, sooner than that. Once the cement is cured and they can replace the tower will go up in 1 day. So, I just don't know when that is.
They get some big equipment down there.
No chance to go through it, we'll start at the top.
Yeah, we'll go through it.
Okay. So, any questions on the budget portion of it?
Are we seeing any, just because I haven't had a chance, any big things that are gonna jump out when I,
No, the only kind of misnomer here is that we are 33% through the year and we've expended 33%. Part of that is because we will be getting reimbursed for the ventilators and the disinfectant lights. We're still waiting for one invoice to come in and to pay that so that I can submit it to both municipalities for reimbursement. So,
Revenues, fire prevention report, it's in there. Deputy's been very busy, out and about and buying things. Run report, any questions from anyone on the run report? Usually the question we have is, the overlapping and dual. We had 36 overlapping simultaneous at the same time, and we were able to do 26 of the 36, it looks like? Or no?
26, that accounts for how many, 26% of all our overall calls were simultaneous.
Okay.
We were able to handle all of them
Oh, nice.
with at least one person on scene.
Received mutual aid ambulance responses 3 times. 2 were transported, so that's lost revenue, but it,
is that 2 transport, we transport, or 1?
2 transported by other communities.
Gotcha.
One was Franklin, one was Sanford.
okay. And we responded once and received engines, okay. And it's the people's lives I'm not worried about. It's nice if we can get money for it, but keeping the people alive is a more priority than waiting.
Sorry, you gotta wait.
That's what we're here for.
Sorry, you gotta wait so we can get the billing. No, it doesn't work out. L1 had front springs installed, and you said that those were original springs?
The original springs, the vehicle is a 2013 model year. When they lost their tension and we had problems with the front end, it was clanking, stuff like that, we brought it to be inspected, and they said the steel in the front springs was bad, and that's why they needed to be replaced. Well out of warranty, so
Yeah,
What was our cost?
9 years, yeah. A2 is in service, you said?
Yes.
Have we had a chance to do any kind of media push with that, kind of taking some photos of the new apparatus and trying to get that information out there?
I've taken a photo of it, but I haven't put it in.
If we can put it on like the webpage and stuff, just to let people know that it's there, and it's just trying to get marketing of steps we've done in the right direction.
Sure.
Any chance we can?
Wasn't there a press release about the new lights, disinfectant lights and all that? There was some stuff I thought I saw about some of the new equipment that you got donated. Not donated, but that was through.
The staff probably done their review what it is,
Yeah.
probably.
I saw it somewhere.
Yeah, they're pretty good about that stuff.
In June, you're going out with Gilman out there for the chassis inspection?
No.
or-
Captain Powell.
Oh, yeah, sorry, okay. One of them.
Yes.
Sorry. So scheduled for July for engine one to get here, and then they'll be away for a bit.
So in June, we're going out to Ohio to inspect the chassis. Then the chassis will be driven to Pennsylvania where they'll put the body on and pump house and finish the vehicle up. And then once that's completed, we'll go out again and do another inspection. And that's when we'll be bringing the tape measures and compasses and everything else to go over with the fine tooth comb.
And then the Dodge Durango, I heard there was a recent hold on vehicles, and some of them were like the police spec ones. This wasn't one of them, right?
So the vehicle is at HQ, but they can't get chips for the light bars and the controllers that controls all the lights. So they're waiting on those. They have delivery dates, and so we should have the vehicle in service by mid-July, I would say.
And that's with full lettering and
All-
lights,
all-
everything?
everything.
You're expecting, okay.
Yep.
You guys got anything on any of that stuff so far? Sorry, wasn't asking.
No.
I mean, consider it. Anything so far that might have been missed?
No, I just can't believe we're gonna wait till mid-July for the lights. Can we just stick like a globe light on it, like they did in that movie? Just drive it around?
Yeah,
When they get the light bar in, they'll drive it back down? I mean, I don't know.
I actually asked that question. There's things that are, besides the lights, there are other things that are, they're waiting
As
for.
long as it's here before September.
What did we decide we were gonna do with his vehicle?
It's being traded in.
It's trading in, okay.
Off the books. I'm gone.
Off the light.
Yep. All right, COVID-19, pretty much the same as before, your protocols and,
Have we been seeing an increase? I know there was, a couple weeks ago, there was some talk about some new variant or something.
So there are new variants out there. I forget what the latest one is called.
So what?
But we haven't really seen an increase in COVID volume due to that. It's really not a pandemic anymore. Now it's more of an endemic, where there's most people in the United States have been affected by it, either have it or have been inoculated towards it. So it's good.
Oh, that's just that, my last booster that I had was through, I think you administered it. Are you guys doing another round? Or, I just got a text the other day that says I'm eligible for another round.
Yeah, so the public health network that we get our supplies from is not doing that anymore. If you need an additional booster, you would go to your, Walgreens or Walmart or CVS to schedule something like that.
next is, you were, last month, I believe, you were also looking at the fiber.
Yes, so since they're bringing fiber to the tower, I'm exploring how can we leverage that to be more, less expensive than some of the other bids that I've received.
All right.
Well, just out of curiosity,
Shoot.
with, I don't know when it's gonna be down the Comcast covered until.
I did do it. You did mine.
Is there a possibility that it would be the redundancy needed? Because if you have one on, I don't know if we have it on whatever it's called now, MetroCast.
No,
Greenpeace or Greenpeace, Greenpeace, something.
Breeze line.
Breeze line.
Breeze line, all right.
That's what we have it currently
Right,
with.
so if we had one on Breezeline, one on Comcast, would that be redundant?
As long as it comes in a different route, it could be, yes.
I don't know. I think it's coming in Belmont.
When it gets here, we'll explore it.
Yeah,
We don't have another solution before then.
I'm learning a lot of wiring stuff and internet stuff because we guys staying at work that are doing the New Hampshire broadband project, so I'm learning all about it. Because they're doing Sandwich next.
Next thing is the construction stuff. So bathroom project wasn't underway last month?
It was and it still is.
Okay. When do you expect that to be?
So, Captain Ames, who was in charge of it, as you know, he was out for a little while on injury, and then he came back and immediately went on vacation because of spring vacation with the kids and stuff like that. So I expect it to be finished up moving forward now.
Okay. Now, it's not on here, but I know last year we put some money aside for siding and rails on Center Street Station.
So that's on, we had the bid from that Commissioner Oger gave us,
Yep.
and we contacted the gentleman, and we're on his schedule. So
Okay.
when-
So sometime in the future, the railing will be adjusted and we'll just do the siding on the back.
Yes.
And I believe the siding was just the back of it, right?
That's correct. The repair of what was missing is,
Yeah.
Has it grown bigger at all?
honestly couldn't tell you.
I don't know, so we'll take a before, like a picture as of this date.
Paul had already asked about Park Street Tower. Any other questions on the tower? The big one, the big hole in the ground that they covered over. The repeater. Talking with fire, you were going to do it with a grant?
Yes.
Update on the grant?
So the grant committee is scheduled to meet shortly. Pan Urban, who runs the committee for the state, there was a shortage in her office, so everything's getting like, they lost some personnel, and they're having trouble replacing personnel, so everything's being pushed back by weeks and months. So I don't know exactly when that's coming out, but it looks favorable.
All right. And then the Safer Grant one. Yeah, we'll go into the Safer Grant. We got the reduced times, average response time to second calls has gone from 22:30 down to 7 minutes and 58 seconds. Average monthly mutual aid went from 1.2 to 6.5. Safer Committee is still continuing to meet. The next meeting is May 24th. How is that committee for staffing of people?
Who's on it?
Yeah.
So it's myself, Commissioner Pyrock, Paul Blaisdell,
Is he
Matt.
planning to do both still?
yes,
Okay.
and Matt Gilman,
Okay.
And
Tornado Woman?
Scott Lewandowski.
And Scott Lewandowski,
Okay.
yes. I don't know what that was all about.
Amber alert.
I don't know.
Okay. And so you're working on all that. All right. I did see you in your chief's report you sent out, there was something about a proposed warrant article. It's in
Yes.
the back of the packet you have here.
Yes, so the Safer Grant Committee, looking at ways to help offset the cost of the grant, Safer Firefighters, once the grant is ended. And they've come up with a proposal to change the purpose of the apparatus and equipment fund. And what it would do would be to add the expenses incurred to repairs, service, and maintenance of the equipment, move it from the operating account to the apparatus and equipment account, thereby taking it off the tax rolls,
Okay.
but using that
Gap. for your
that
safer.
offset to help offset the cost of the additional employees.
Okay, because I saw this, I wasn't sure quite where it was going with that, but,
And the Safer Committee wanted to see if the commissioners would support that.
Get in your temperature for it. Get in your temperature for it. See how you feel about it.
For general discussion on it, I mean, we're not making a, so for discussion, I would see, my thought on it personally is look at the overall cost of operating and all that and see what that potentially does save of it to cover it, but I don't want to see the budget go up. I'm very nervous about making the budget go up, so if it's a way of reducing the areas of the budget, I'd be open to looking at it.
So that's like one of the tax that they're looking at a number of different things to help offset the costs. I don't think there's going to be anything that the committee's going to be able to come up with that's going to totally offset the cost of additional employees.
The other thing too is I believe we told the people by buying new vehicles, it would cut down maintenance or the cost of fixing them.
It's absolutely correct.
And I believe that's what we told them in order to get a new fire truck.
Yes, and
If we don't show that,
Yes.
then it doesn't make us look good.
yes, so no, that's going to be absolutely a positive thing that we will be able to show that.
We spell it out in the cost centers and stuff very clearly because there's a mixed feelings on the safer, so they have to see the impacts here. I want it very transparent when we get to that point. I think it's next year.
Yes, we'll have to make the decision on the safer employees at the next district meeting.
Right, so we'll definitely very clear, concise of the impacts so that people have the informed decision and what they say is what we get.
Yep, so I showed a lot of the data at the district meeting of reduced response times, reduced use of mutual aid, increase in revenue for ambulances. One of the other things that it's hard to track because I don't put it in the budget, but emergency callbacks, I don't budget for it, I just kind of let it slide. But we're not using emergency callbacks nearly as often as we
For the
were
full-time.
for the
side.
full-time employees, so that overtime expense is going to be smaller going forward as well.
You
I'm
might
trying
want to
to
look
figure-
at some way of tracking it.
That's what I'm trying to figure out right now,
Yeah.
how to track that compared to what it was before.
Right.
So there was a lot of things that
Mhm.
got in the fire.
One method just be general, less expensive overtime.
Yes.
But that's the thing is that you can show with the report is what the overtime was before the safer.
So
And you also have to make sure the call is, you have it apples to apples, so you can't say, well, we are up 100 extra calls, and so the overtime is up because of that. We have to make sure that all the comparisons kind of show.
yeah, so I have to figure out, I have to look back in the reports and see how many times did we have an emergency callback, how many times did we have people show up for them, and how many people, and compare that to before and
Mhm.
after.
You usually have that in the meeting here for second and third calls. And
Yeah, but it's
Doesn't
because
have
there's
personnel.
second and third calls doesn't necessarily mean we had an emergency callback.
Right,
There are different circumstances where we do that,
okay.
and others where we do not.
Yeah, definitely metrics on that and how we can spell it out to show very clearly because people are gonna be asking. So, all right. Didn't mean to jump into that, but yeah, I saw this and I wasn't sure what we were doing with that, and now I know. I didn't associate it with that bullet. Call captains, you have some coming on, the call applicants?
Yeah, so there's a typo there. It should say 2 call applicants.
No,
We
3.
well, it says 3, it should be 2, that we're awaiting action on their part to move forward in the process.
Are they off the street or do they have EMT or firefighter one?
So,
One has EMT, and the other is in EMT class, and the other's military, right? Retired from the military.
Right.
yeah,
No, nice.
We'll bring our numbers up to.
about 14.
12. Oh, 14, nice.
Around
I thought we were at 9, nice.
total call.
All right, and the only thing you have left here is what you're working on, which was your hydrants and cistern locations. just scouting out still?
So, I'm making appointments to have discussions with landowners to see what we need to do to move forward in some of the locations that we've identified for an agreement.
Yeah.
And from there, we'll go to the attorney to have the agreement codified, and then we'd have to get a surveyor to mark out the easement, have the easement recorded, and then we can move forward with the installation of whichever device we're looking for that property.
Did we put enough money in the budget this year for one or two to go in?
We put $100,000 aside that in a special fund, that the commissioners are the agents of the fund. So when we have an expense, the commissioners can authorize the spending of that.
So you could probably get 3 or 4 with that if you had the spacing.
It might be,
available.
if it's dry hydrants, we can certainly get more than
Oh,
if
yeah.
it were a cistern.
Yeah.
So, but I'm looking at both things right now.
And AFG, in requesting all new LDH, I'm sorry, those are acronyms that aren't standing out to me.
They have Assistance to Firefighters Grant. We applied for, to replace all our large diameter hose because of its age. When we did the testing for the last few years, is many lengths that have 10 billion pinholes in it.
Mhm.
That indicates that it's on its way out, so.
All this excess hose, or are we getting rid of it, or do you guys just have shelves upon shelves of it?
Most of the hose, once we get it replaced, will go in the dumpster.
Okay. And then, okay. The implementation of new records management system, the reports, which we saw some of tonight,
Yes.
has a different view to it. And you had 2023 budgets.
So that's, already started working on next
Nice.
year's budget.
The other committee that you might have seen or you have seen, sorry,
Have I seen?
that you want to bring up or anything like that?
No.
I kind of just run right through things real fast.
No, just. I'm just, no, it's good. I haven't really seen anything, I haven't had anybody. I had someone ask me something the other day, and I was able to look at my phone and say no.
The only other correspondence I had was a resident, I don't know from where, sent an email to the fire station asking why we got a new A2. And so I answered him, and the email back I get was, okay.
And they replaced A3?
No, replaced A2. A2, the new A2 replaced the old A2.
Okay. And so the other one went away already, so we just
Yes.
have the 2 going.
Yeah, exactly the same,
Nice.
which is nice.
It is, because when you go for a cabinet, when you're going for something, when you need it immediately.
Yes.
All right. So that, go for it.
I did have a question.
Yeah.
Only because I don't know if it was either Saturday or Sunday. I was trying to avoid exit 20, so I went like after Hill Road. You guys were on a call there. And there was at the, you know, that if you're coming from 132, you go down that hill, and there's a corner, you go up the hill, and you're like right at the top of that. And all I could think of was, oh my God, we have new equipment, because there was a girl coming the other way, and she's bebopping away on her phone, and I just going, oh no, you know, and I'm just thinking, you know, if she hits that thing, and I was just kind of curious that the police, does the police department ever show up on the calls like that for traffic, or?
If they're requested, but sometimes they respond and help out just because they hear the call.
They were, I didn't see them.
Were they on the road or were they in the,
You guys, our department was parked on the road.
I don't remember the call was to.
Yeah, I don't know.
So we, you know, with all the newer apparatus, we have the latest, most up-to-date markings on the vehicles
Yeah.
to make sure that.
But this is a girl that's like this.
So the other, one of the other
Oh,
things,
it's-
it's not in here, but one of the other things I'm looking at implementing for a department, but I'm still exploring it, is called the Hans system. And what that does is that it's a device in the vehicles that hooks up to these cellular networks that allows vehicles with cell phones in them to let them know that emergency vehicles are up ahead, are behind you, responding so that, you know, as we know, I know I see a lot of people on their phones while they're driving, and this would give them an alert right on their phone saying there's an emergency vehicle in front of you, or emergency scene, you know, on the side of the road.
I'm trying to work that
Or
out.
there's emergency vehicles approaching from behind you, that kind of thing. So
Has that system been around for a while?
it's been around for a couple years, and it's actually in a lot of the newer vehicles coming out, emergency vehicles like the Rev Group are having it installed in the vehicles as a standard equipment, but you still have to subscribe to the service that allows it to go out and be effective. It's touted as the next safety awareness thing for other folks, but what it also does is that if, like, we have vehicles approaching an intersection, it also tells us.
Deconflicts when Frank is coming through that intersection now
Yes.
at the same time you are.
Yes.
Oh, no, it's just, I just cringed thinking, oh my
I can't
God.
believe this is
that's-
ready.
you know.
We had engine 3, I don't know if it was a year old, got hit on the highway.
Well, that's what I was thinking
Maybe
about, I was
two
flashing back to
more
that,
than-
just going, oh, because I think it was probably engine 2 that was.
I watched a young lady on Sunday pull into Dunkin' Donuts next to me, and I looked up and heard this bang. She ran right into the concrete post, and there she was, parked her car, texting.
Not very well.
Yeah.
If you are gonna go with that, if you could get information back, if you, it looks like something you're gonna go with, and information explaining a little bit, and I'm just curious to how much, well, it's been out there, because I was waiting for the incurred costs for the monitoring and all that stuff,
Right.
but departments that had it and reviews and things like that, I think
Yeah,
it's gonna
so-
be important to have, if you're gonna look
I will
strongly at it.
definitely, am strongly looking at it.
Then, yeah,
If it's something that I think we should do something, I'll definitely have a proposal for you to look at and costs, and we'll probably have it go through the budget process.
okay. Is there any new vehicle grant or safety apparatus grants that might cover that?
So that's another thing I'd have to explore. That might be covered under an AFG, but I'm not sure.
Anything you can look at for that? Yeah, I can just imagine what the monitoring will be a year for a vehicle.
I don't think it's that much, but it's an additional cost.
Well, it's gonna be installation of equipment on probably at
The
least 2
equipment
engines.
installation is very, very simple. That's, we could do it ourselves, but the service that it requires, I don't know what that cost
Okay.
is, but I will explore it. And it depends upon how many vehicles you have this thing
Correct.
installed on.
Yeah, and that's
So-
why I figured you had 2 ambulances, 2
2
engines
engines.
minimum, and probably a tower and a tanker.
Yeah.
Maybe the rescue, so you're looking at 6 to 7.
Even command cars, you know. So
Yeah.
it could be up to 11 or 12, depending upon, you know,
Correct.
how you look at it.
Yeah.
And we'll have to see what the cost is and if it's worth putting it in certain vehicles and some not.
Okay. All right, so you guys good with the chief's report, or are you still? We can come back to it if you
Go
want us to.
ahead. Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
So I can see your mind's clicking away. So we'll come back to the chief's report, I have a feeling. Okay, so we'll move into old business. Safer Grant Committee, we already heard part of it, or was that the whole amount of it?
It's pretty much. Do you have anything else to add to that?
No, that was it,
Okay,
stole my thunder.
sorry.
The warrant article, yeah. Yeah, definitely we'll look at spelling it all out. I mean, that's the biggest thing, because when it was proposed as it wasn't gonna cost the public at the end of it. So we have to somehow make sure that the cost of revenue coming in really kind of levels out to the cost of the personnel.
I don't recall that the safety committee said that they would cover the whole cost of that, or that we said that, but I know we said we would look at trying to offset the costs. But I don't think we'd ever be able to offset 100% of the cost.
And that's where the public is gonna ask questions, and then we'll see
Yep.
what the public votes on, but, yeah. We'll do what we can with it, as best we can. District clerk, I saw an email or something, or we haven't heard any feedback yet from
No
her?
feedback yet from her.
Okay.
So that brings up an issue with
Yes,
minutes.
I knew you were going
and
there.
DRA.
Yes.
They've already emailed us looking for them, saying we're overdue. There's the minutes as well as the report of elected officials.
Mhm.
So one of the options is that if I can't get a response from her tomorrow, is that we do the minutes. You guys sign off on them and send them to DRA.
Everything was recorded,
Everything was recorded,
so we're able to pull down accurate minutes
yes.
if we have to, and then do we have to write a letter of
Yes.
adjustment for the mediation or whatever to get for DRA?
I would recommend that you write a letter to go with the minutes explaining why they're so late and
Mhm.
why they weren't done by the clerk.
Great, I have to start signing things already. Thanks, people.
So I will reach out to her one more time.
Okay, and we've reached out by email, by phone, and she's ghosted both? Oh, she just has not responded is the proper term.
She responded to one of the emails and said that she had put it on Google Drive, but she never sent me an invite to her Google Drive.
Okay,
So I instantly emailed her back and requested the contact information so I could access it.
or
And-
have her pull it down from Google Drive, make it into Adobe and send it over where you
Right.
have it.
I did ask for that as well, and there's been no response.
Okay. All right. Has DRA given us a limit, or we already on their bad side? Okay. So,
She's laughing.
The minutes were supposed to be done by no later than April 4th.
right. That's right. Okay, so
That's over
4/4.
30 days.
Yeah,
So 5/4, you're gonna reach out to her.
yes.
That's Tuesday.
Is there a monetary issue that we're dealing with for DRA?
Penalties?
No.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I'd reach out to her tomorrow, which is Tuesday. If we don't have anything, I would actually, if possible, we start planning draft minutes ourselves from the recordings
Yes.
this week.
Yes.
If we get hers, then we'll set those, which will be a better.
It
but
would
if not-
definitely be better.
But if not, I don't want to wait and give her like 2 days to do it, and then, oh, now we're going to keep clocking the time down.
Well, it's not just the minutes from the district meeting, it's also the minutes of the public hearings back in February.
We have those still on record somewhere too?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that
If-
something that
I didn't delete either one of those.
Is Beth gonna do those? Is she able to do those? Is that what you're gonna have do those?
I was gonna ask her if she felt comfortable.
If we could start the process of making our own as the backup minutes. And if we don't hear back from her by Friday, at least then we've gone forward with ours. I'll get in touch with either you or you to figure out what I gotta do for that letter. And then you can send it out, I'll get it drafted, you can send it out to the commissioners, and that way we can probably get it to them by Monday, to DRA by Monday would be a potential.
That's gonna be really tight for the minutes of the district meeting,
Okay.
unless I do them.
Okay. But if we can at least push it and get a draft out there, maybe by,
Right,
We'll do that as quickly
as
as we
quickly as
can.
possible.
and just keep us in the loop on it, and then we'll get it closed out by the end of next week, hopefully.
Question, is that something that we're gonna have to sign in person next week? Or can that be done via sign now?
It can be done via sign now.
Because I am gonna
Because
this week,
it's
I'm
going-
not coming back for signs.
Right, because they're uploaded to DRA
Digitally.
digitally,
Okay,
so
Gotcha.
it doesn't matter.
all right.
Good.
Yeah, so if we can kind of close that loop by next a week from Friday, that would be, if possible.
We'll see what we can do.
Yep, yeah, just keep us, we'll do what we can on the whole thing. All right, and,
And she's still the clerk until she submits a letter of resignation.
I think based on the fact that we haven't heard back, that's the next step. I'd like to at least get the DRA matter closed,
Oh, definitely.
and then we'll work on contacting her, and if we don't hear back, then we'll look at what the RSA's or policies allow for replacement. I think is the right way. And I don't know the RSA off the top of my head about the minutes. Is it RSA 91A? that-
Yes,
So it's 91A is all that we have to have it responded to by DRA?
yes.
I'm pretty-
Well, for DRA, for the district meeting, that is strictly DRA's deadline.
But, okay, so
Right.
if possible, can we, the commissioners see the policy from DRA on that, if possible?
It's just on their website,
Okay.
it's a date that it's due.
Okay. Just to make sure we do that. The 91A portion I'm pretty familiar with, but I just want to make sure we're hitting policies on that so we can
Yeah.
cite that for the letter when we have to.
That is just a DRA, that's not, district meeting does not fall under 91A
Okay. Okay.
for that purpose anyways.
If we don't hear from her, I mean, it's an elected position,
Correct.
but is there such thing as abandonment of her position? Is there, I mean, how long does she have left in her term?
Till a new
She
one's
was a-
elected.
She was appointed to finish to do a year for Stephanie because no one ran.
Right.
And then someone had to run
Yeah.
to fill that position for the remaining 2 years of the term. And
No one ran,
no one ran,
but one person did get 3 write-in votes.
yes.
So we would, yeah, we'll get through I think the commissioners will get through the
We'll get
first
through the
part, and then
minutes.
we'll look at policies and regulations on that, and
And we'll figure out the
maybe her
rest.
schedule will free up and she'll be able to be more involved. I don't know. We'll give her the benefit of the doubt, and if not, we'll
Absolutely.
move on.
Yes.
We'll figure out options, maybe just more legal bills we have to put on for interpretation.
Mhm.
Sounds like we're not doing that now. All right, the next one, water district mediation, and that is scheduled for June 10th in Laconia.
That's correct.
Are you gonna be here for that one? Okay.
I didn't put it in my calendar yet because I want to make sure everyone else was
Do you
okay.
have a start time yet?
I believe it's going to be 8:30 or 9 o'clock. I don't have the exact time yet,
Okay.
but when I do, I'll certainly are you available, Paul,
Yeah.
that day? So,
To close the process.
I have a question. Does that qualify as a meeting since all 3 of us will be?
Yes.
Do we have
It
to-
does, but it's a non-meeting because it's with the attorney.
Yeah.
That's what I was-
Yep.
Oops.
But it's just, I just want it out there so the public can hear that we are moving forward with trying to work it with the water district, and June 10th is the next opportunity to try and do so.
and that was a date picked by the water district, so
So it's not changed.
So it should be good.
it should be good.
I've been putting that from 8 to 5.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's gonna be all day.
What is it just happened?
All right.
Our water district, so it's at 4 AM? No. Yeah, I'm just trying to actually get it to save.
All right, the next thing was moving into new business.
You want to do the fire station committee first?
Yeah, we'll reverse the 2 of them, fire station contract proposal and purchasing policy before elected officials' salaries, just to respect time for people. All right, so with this one, the question was brought up in regards to the purchasing policy and make the fire station policy, or fire station's movement that they've done so far, and making sure what we need to do to be compliant, or the commissioners waive, or whatever we need to do. I wasn't at that meeting, so I don't have the full details of it. So, do you have the gist of it, or?
So, basically, as we all know, the building committee made a decision to contact vendors by telephone, which was done, and a number of vendors were contacted, and maybe up to 10 of them, and they were asked if they were interested in building a fire station using the design-build method. I believe that's all the information they were given. And Kevin, you can tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, if you want.
Oh, you're right on.
Okay, and we did, the 5 submittals were given to the fire district. The submittals were varying in the information that were supplied, so that they were different information within each of them. A couple of them were kind of close to the same. And the purchasing policy of the fire district is such that when something like this is occurring, it's usually the process that, it's the policy that we advertise the RFPs or RFQs, and that advertisement open for a certain period of time. Proposals are due at a certain period of time. Anything after that time is considered null and void. But also part of that policy is that if the commissioners deem that it's in the best interest of the fire district to waive that process, you allow me to waive the process. And so here we are with 5 different proposals of varying information, and it's up to the commissioners at this point to determine whether the process was fair for the proposers, and it's in the best interest of the fire district to either resubmit, re-advertise, or advertise, I should say, for the first time, or should we just take what we have and try and move forward with what we have. And that's in a nutshell, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, essentially, I think I asked too many questions because I came in late in the process. I don't think you want to turn back, because you won't be able to get the same response twice from contractors. But they did sort of give us all the same information. The only thing really that's different is some gave a fee, some didn't, but we didn't ask for a fee from what I understand. So we still have interviews that we can do, and we're going to send a letter to the contractors, and we can ask for specific information and make it so we're comparing apples and apples. And I think we talked about that at our last meeting, that we would ask for specific things for them to bring at the interview. Kind of bring it in line with, with a fair process. It's still a fair process. They all got, they were able to submit qualifications, and you got, what, 50% submitted?
We did. Perhaps just to expand upon how the process works. So back in October or November was the time frame when there was a October 26th meeting was when we decided that we would make phone calls in order to expedite the process of getting information from contractors. At that time, I reviewed the bylaws, and there's nothing in the bylaws about purchasing, because now I'm learning more. So this is a policy that this is, but it's not part of the bylaws. The chief was not in attendance at, there was 2 or 3 meetings that we discussed this, that he was not in attendance at. We did have John, you were in attendance as the commissioner's representative. We came, over the course of 2 meetings, we came up with a list of, I believe it was 10 or so contractors that we would contact. Our initial list was then expanded to increase to the 10, I believe. Out of those 10 contractors, we received 5 replies. The others either never responded to me, multiple voicemails left that were never responded to. There are 2 right off the top of my head that I can think of that during the initial contact, they expressed some hesitancy because of their anticipated workload at the time, and then returned communications. I think one was via email to Kathy and myself. that they were not interested in participating in the process. The other was a phone call to me that said, we can't do it. So I think that number 50% responses is accurate. The contractors who responded are all very well-known, very well-experienced contractors. This is not the first time that they've been asked to participate in a municipal project. However they're asked, whether it's with responding to a request for qualification or via a phone call. I don't know that we would have received any different response. I can't say that we would or we would not. Given the building climate at that time and still currently, most of the contractors that are capable of doing this project are extremely busy. I'd also like to point out that having read the purchasing policy, it states the chief, in consultation with the commissioners, may, not shall, not will, may choose to use requests for proposals when the product or service being considered can be provided in more than one way by competitive vendors. Next sentence says, requests for qualifications and experience may, and not shall, not will, may be used to pre-qualify vendors who will be sent to request for proposals. And because this is my only frame of reference in keeping with the focus on the building committee, there was a vote by the commissioners to hire Alan Clark from REI Associates at a cost of over $25,000, which exceeds the purchasing policy, and there was no competitive bids, there was no request for proposals, there was nothing. So that's certainly precedence that would, in my mind, says there's no need for you guys to waive a policy that is not in place, in that it's not required. You know, sending a request for proposals or getting bids, if you will, is not a requirement in the purchasing policy of the district. So. And as Lisa said, I think if we go back now, if we whatever your decision is, if you decide to send out requests for proposals, I don't think that we'll get responses from some of these contractors, and we will not have a product available to bring to the district, the annual meeting in March of next year.
Appreciate that. I think, Paul, you were on the original policy committee, so you're probably more experienced. You're more experienced than I am, at least. I'll step up for that. This one caught me off guard, and I was the representative there, and it blindsided me too. I just wasn't tracking all the things. So, with the any thoughts you have since you were part of the original policy?
No, I mean, it should, you know, the policy is old, as you can see. It should have been updated a long time ago, I think. You know, when we put the policy together, I forget, it was me.
Paul
Kevin.
Westdale
Yeah.
and Dennis Manning.
Oh, that's when it was last updated.
Last
Yes,
updated.
last
Yeah,
updated.
updated, yeah. But that was how many years ago?
It's
It
2017.
was 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
So it's due.
Yeah, so.
The update at that point in time was it wasn't about the purchasing side, it was about the disposable surplus equipment,
Okay.
Yeah.
allowing it to go to nonprofit and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I know on the first go-round, we did go through an RFQ and RFP process to hire an architect, and then we did an RFP for contractors following that, and that's how we ended up with Warren Street Architects and EPS, Bonner Page and Stone, as our contractor. And that process was fair and done according to the purchasing policy. I believe I sent to you, John, a copy of what we had out there, what we did at the time, the proposal that went out to the RFQs.
So, well, I have some buried emails I've really made. Actually, before I run over everyone again, do you have any immediate thoughts? I'm trying to get better.
I guess I think you touched on it, but are we able, from the information that has been gathered through the process that was used, and I know we got 50%, but is that 50%, are we able to go through that 50% and get an apples to apples, saying this is, you know, where, I guess my main concern is that I don't feel, and I don't know this 100%, but my impression so far is that they didn't all get the same information. So, you know, the Tilton Northfield Fire Department looking to build a, you know, a 1 square foot building here, and, you know, so they all received that, and, you know, how do we get, you know, from air to a physical or construction company, management company. So I guess I'm just worried that we're not, consistent information wasn't given out, and I don't want it to come back to bite us in the behind later on, where all of a sudden the company's gonna go, you know, that maybe was kind of watching, and they're gonna come back and go, well, wait a minute, you know, you didn't advertise this, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. And that's my, you know, I guess I'm looking at it from a more of a legal standpoint of later on down the road, when, you know, we've invested months and months and hours of time on this, and I don't want it to be for nothing.
Right.
Dealing with enough lawyer stuff and other stuff, so.
We did get enough information to evaluate the qualifications of the contractors.
Which is pretty much the first part, and even this talks about request for qualifications. And I really think that when the chair reached out to him, he kind of was pretty, this is what we're looking for, and looking to see the qualifications. We don't have a full proposal from them yet. It's more, what is your capabilities, what do you think? So it's more the qualifications right now than proposal, trying to find the right ones for the right capabilities. I understand your concern about the 30-day posting online and all that, because theoretically someone who was number 11 that wasn't contacted could come in and say, I want this, I want an opportunity after the fact. But Kevin did reach out to most of the ones that in the area that would be considered for it.
Part of the decision process about who to reach out to was that we used, and I don't recall the name of that website, but it indicated, first, we made the decision and the commissioners had approved that we were going to use a design-build process. So it had to be a design-build contractor that we were going to contact. And then the other criteria that we agreed upon was that it had been somebody that had built a fire station in the last 5 years. And there was a source, an internet source,
Yeah,
that we
it's
utilized, I
you
don't
could
recall
find
what it
contractors,
was,
all that.
that had that information on it. And that was one of the those were the two criteria that we looked at. And then I think from that is how we got those 10 contractors to contact. Are there more? Sure there are.
So, sure, there's
There's-
probably 1,000 of them, but, you know, what are your
There's
criteria?
1,000 more. But to answer your question, Eric, is, were they all given the same information? They were. It was a very simple conversation that I identified myself as the chair of the building committee, that we were going to be using a design-build process to construct a new fire station, a property that was owned by the fire district at Park Street. Some asked a few questions, some asked none. And you could see they all gave us what they were asked for. Are you interested? Well, yeah, because if they weren't interested, they wouldn't have sent the response. are you qualified? Yeah, because they all sent in information showing that they had built a fire station in the past. There were two of the companies that went, they provided the information as if they were providing a proposal to build this fire station. And they provided far more information than what was asked for. As Lisa stated, we have enough information to make a decision on who we want to interview. And then the decision from the committee, based upon the grading criteria that we've come up with, most of which was, the work was done by Lisa, was, or will come out of those interviews. And there will be 8 or 10 or however many committee members are able to participate in those interviews. All have the opportunity to score each individual contractor based upon the same information, because the letter that we're planning to send out is going to basically identify what we expect to hear from them during that interview and the topics that we want to address. That was what we kind of finalized at the meeting that we had last week. We're all going to be given the same opportunity to present to us why we should hire you. And we're not doing the hiring. We're going to make a recommendation to the commission. And I'm going to go back to what I said. Policy does not say shall.
No,
The policy says may. So, as far as a legal concern, we refer back to the policy that says, well, we may do it, but we may not, and we decided not to.
Can I ask, are all these contractors in-state?
Yes.
Okay. The other question I want to ask is, if you were to pick out 1 or 2, would we get references?
They all gave references.
They did give references, and we could check their reference? Okay.
So,
After the question, I think would be appropriate for it, after the interview process.
Yeah.
so one of the other concerns I have is, and it goes to, you said you told them all there was a design-build process. So with a design-build, the contractor, the builder, hires the architect. Well, there was one submission that didn't even list an architect. So he may have said it, but nothing was in writing for anything. So we can't really prove anything of what was said, other than maybe emails that went back and forth, but maybe not with all of them. So there's no way to track how we got to where we are, other than we did collect these 5 proposals. There's no path of where how did we get to here from here, in writing anyways. So that's a concern, and I think it could be it could be a roadblock when we get to public hearings and district meetings. How did you guys get here? And it's going to be, I think it can be explained, but it's going to be convoluted, and I think when you have convolution, people start to say, you know what, let's step back.
I think part of what you're getting at is the posting of notices. The minutes about this have been on our page, the building committee minutes. The REI supposedly reached out and saw it on that communication process, so theoretically, the information's out there. I understand the concern of the posting, but to look at it from both sides of the coin is that it has been out there has been talked about, and we've been solicited from outside in the public from that process. So it obviously is out there for people to see.
No doubt.
So I think,
I
yes, we
think-
didn't meet the right intent, but I think go to 0 would be very detrimental.
All I'm saying is that when it gets to a public hearing, that we all know that from the attendance of our meetings, that the public really doesn't have any input until we get to a public hearing or even district meeting. And that's when questions get asked and monkey wrenches get thrown
Yeah.
into things. And that's where it's very difficult to mitigate those issues at a public district meeting or something like that. Public hearings, yes, that we want those to help mitigate issues going forward. But when you get to a district meeting and somebody hasn't participated in the process, we all know what happens when questions come up that can't be clearly and easily answered, not with a long two or three page explanation. This is how we got there and this is what it is. That's awesome.
Kevin, I think you had something.
Well, I still fail to understand how there's a concern with what the process that we've gone through and how hiring Alan Clark and REI, who contacted you, Chief,
Yes.
is acceptable. I don't understand how one is not and one is, because that was an unsolicited contact. The building committee met with them, the commissioners met with them, and the decision was made to hire him, and then he chose not to
He
participate.
wasn't a contractor though, he was a project manager for the fire district, our
Owner's
owner's
representative.
rep, that's the
The
correct.
initial work was not in that role. But again, it's an expenditure of over $25,000 that meets this purchasing policy, so the purchasing policy is either is or it isn't.
Yep.
And we can't have it both ways. There's nothing, and as far as answering a question at an annual meeting, how did we get here? Contractors were solicited. Out of the solicitations that were put out, 5 responded. Out of those 5, we interviewed X, and out of that X, we chose this one.
And they were recommended to the commissioners, and the commissioners approved it.
Either.
So it falls back on us in the end,
It does. yes.
that as long as the committee does the right interview and has their right decision, then it's really the ultimate responsibility falls on the commissioners as the ones that are actually signing the piece of paper saying yes, based on their recommendations.
And perhaps,
Correct.
perhaps one of the steps that has been left out up until now is that the building committee isn't providing an update to the commissioners on a monthly basis,
Yeah.
so that you guys can talk about it at your monthly commissioners meeting, much like the chief has done with the Safer Grant committee. You know, maybe we need to start doing that as well.
I was bringing some up, I just had missed the last meeting, so I really couldn't say anything, but prior to that, I was kind of bringing what we were
Okay.
doing forward.
Okay.
But no, if we have an additional representative here as well, that's great, but yeah, we definitely, this is gonna be an ongoing committee, just like the SAFER, with the monthly updates to the commissioners for that open communication, so there's no surprises 6 months from now saying, huh?
Right.
We don't want any of that. So really, I think, from the commissioners, is where do we think we are with this? Do we feel comfortable waiving the posting period since it was notified and in minutes, it was on our homepage that we were looking to do this? Are we comfortable waiving that posting time and allowing the building committee to continue forward based on the information given to us? It's getting to the same point, it's just how it got there was a little bit of a bumpy sidetrack.
Well, I was gonna say one more thing. Today's Daily Sun, page 20. If you look on the online edition, it's page 22 for some reason, but the actual page in the paper is page 20. There's an advertisement, I'll call it a legal ad, for construction management services for another municipal project in an area of town. And they're looking for the soliciting letters of interest and qualification statements for construction management services relating to the project. And, you know, and it lays out the schedule. It even has the budget in there, which was kind of ironic, because we don't have a budget yet. But it includes the.
Never tell somebody how much you wanna spend on something.
You know, it's weird, I'm like, and it says the construction budget is 14 million. But in step 3 is town meeting for project approval. So the first is, you know, September of 2022, it's design development documents complete, construction cost estimate in October, March is that, and then final construction, and they break, or construction starts September 2023. But, so I don't know if the project has been approved by that town, I don't know. I know it was an issue for elections this year, but I don't know that list exactly what they're doing, you know, adding on to a gym, adding on to the CAF, adding on to a media center, you know, gives it straight out. I'm still just worried about it coming back to us. And it kills me to stop any progress.
In reality, the only thing that we're violating or is not in compliance with the policy is the advertising for 2 quotes or requests for proposal for items available in state vendors will be through, so state vendors are in there, and they got that part for you, and no less than 2 of the following. So this is where the hiccup falls. It had to have 2 postings, either in the Winnisquam Echo, Concord Monitor, Union Leader, Laconia Daily Sun, and ads will appear in the TiltonNorthfield.org and Tilton Northfield Town Hall Bulletin Board. So it didn't hit those. That's where the whole, that if it wasn't for that little phrase, this wouldn't even be a issue. It was on our homepage in minutes. It wasn't as a big blog saying right here up front saying, hey, we're looking to do this, but it was in the minutes there, and apparently we did get a solicitor from the public that knew about it from our information and right on our page. So that alone validates that the information was out there. Because he said that he saw it he found out on our page, so we have validation from the prior contractor that our information was out there. So it's up to the commissioners whether we want to stop it and potentially lose some good contractors, or understand that we got there, and this will be part of the final approval process also. But the fact that, I can tell you in construction right now, the fact that you got a 50% response is pretty dang good, because right now the contracting field out there is so tight that you're lucky to get 1 or 2. So the fact that you had 5 show potential interest, I think that it would really stymie getting all 5 back if we were to revert backwards. This is my 2 cents.
May I add something?
Sure.
The contractors are all very well qualified, and it's actually in the best interest of the district to move forward rather than backwards, because you may not get these highly qualified contractors to come back and give you another. They're going to give you the same thing, it's just that you're going to advertise it for it, and then they may say, well, you know what, now it's delayed, it will delay your project. You will not have anything ready for any voting next year, so you're going to push it to the following year, and who knows what the climate, they may say, sorry, that's too far up, we don't want to participate.
I think the most, I've built a couple fire stations before, and it's not really the contractor that's the most important. In my mind, it's the architect that's the most important. The design team is the most important. And then you have an owner's representative that makes sure that the contractor fulfills his duties and builds it to the design and the way you wanted it done. I think those are the 2 most important things. You still should have a reputable contractor. But again, in my experience, it's the architect and the rest of the design team that goes along with that to make sure that you have a quality product. And, as well as the owner's rep, a very good owner's rep to do that for you. Because we can't all be there all the time.
Correct.
Whereas the owner's rep is there multiple times during the week to make sure that things are going, and that owner's rep checks the billing and all that kind of stuff against what is done.
you need that regardless.
Right.
Yes.
That's, yeah, right.
Make sure that,
So,
to be behind that wall is really what's supposed to be behind that wall.
Right.
Yeah,
But I think really what's before the commissioners tonight is, because that could be part of the question and interview process, and that can be part of that screening of qualifications. What's before us tonight is where we're at. Do we continue forward, or do we step back? That's really the immediate concern, and then from there, the screening process, we'll look into the reps and architects and things like that.
so the owner's rep would probably be something that we would advertise for.
I think right now, like I said, the
And
big
that-
thing is,
that's the
right,
next
moving
step.
forward down, as steps down the road, correct. But they can move forward, if it was approved, then they could move forward with the contractors at least.
Well, all have an architect other than the one in their quals package. And our rating system looks at the contractor, the architect, and then the similar experience. And part of that is have the architect and the contractor
Work
work
together.
together
Yeah.
on a fire station.
Yeah.
So we're evaluating it as a true design-build team, not just the contractor.
So one of the proposals is pretty much self-eliminated because they didn't provide an architect in their proposal.
But during the
Yes.
screening process, they might be able to,
Well, then it wouldn't be, so the way we were gonna go about this is we're gonna screen all the proposals and grade them before we did an interview. And if they didn't have an architect, then they wouldn't get a grade or a score for an architect and the architect's experience. So that would pretty much eliminate, there's no way they could make up the difference in an interview. I don't think in our grading system that would be possible.
I think in your grading system, you
However-
could take that into consideration where it wasn't part of, they very spelled out, so they might, and I haven't seen the grading process yet, but you might be able to adjust a factor of that based on,
Man, I'd like to reiterate, because I believe that we're getting off track. The discussion is about whether we did or did not follow purchasing clause. And I think it's very clear, and you're gonna get tired of hearing me saying it, because it says may. And all the language after that talks about where it's gonna be advertised, how long it's gonna sit out there, and all the language after that is predicated upon whether the decision is made to offer out those requests for qualifications. So if the decision is not made, again, like it was with REI, then the rest of the language is irrelevant. When it says we may choose to, it automatically infers that we may choose not to.
correct,
And we chose not to.
yes. But your may comes in after a point of saying all will. So above, the paragraph above says all quotes and requests for proposals shall be opened by the chief at the date and time middle published quotes. So if we did quotes, that says all there. Now, we may be able to adjust how it is, and I accept the may portion of, like you're saying, but it does say higher that you will.
So
Okay?
that's, again, we're language, so
Correct.
all quotes or and requests for proposals shall be opened by the chief at the date and time published in the quote or request for proposal. I'm sorry.
Right.
At the date and time published in the quote or request for proposal and shall be open to the public.
Right.
Again, that's assuming that there was a quote, a request for quote or a proposal.
And I
It's
understand where you're
kind
coming.
of, the language in here
Yes.
is out of order,
Yes.
so it does not infer in any way that every purchase has to have a request for proposal or a quote.
In fact, we did not have a request for proposal, we asked for qualifications.
Correct. Which is, right, exactly.
Which
No,
is
I
what
understand
you want to
what-
base your
I understand
selection
what
on
you're saying.
So
anyway.
that language is referring to quotes and proposals. We asked for qualifications.
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's where we're kind of at with it, is the qualifications. I personally, and it's not a motion yet, am in favor of continuing forward, understanding where we're at. What we may not have done the proper process, and that's something that we have to be cognizant of, and I don't think there's gonna be legal repercussions, but I could be wrong, who knows these days. I think that we're safe to move forward with the fact that we had probably more than what we would have if we had posted, to be honest. Because they're all out there, the fact that you reached out to them, and these were, they're good contractors that are out there. And that's part of what the screening process moving forward will do, and then before the commissioners. So it's really up to the commissioners if we want to move forward or if we want to stymie it and do that. It's really what it comes down to. The pros and cons of it, we just absorb them all.
Sure, and it is absolutely the commissioner's decision on this. I think the contractors that did propose a proposal are quality contractors. But the only thing that, the reservations I'm presenting to you, it's my job to present these to you, is that the other thing is that by not following the policy as the commissioners have approved, it's one thing for a $50,000 or a $25,000 contractor. This is a multi-million-dollar project. And when you don't follow the policy for a multi-million-dollar project, maybe we shouldn't even have a policy.
Well, the policy's probably going to get revised pretty
Can I have a question? Can I have a question?
Absolutely.
Can I ask a question? The proposals, where were they sent?
To Kathy.
Thank you.
Yep. We didn't have them sent to her?
No, I didn't know where they were sent. There was no
Yep.
mention. I didn't.
Yep.
I'm just.
So everything was done, it's just how it was posted. They were reached out to by phone rather than being posted on the website. That's the whole concern or the whole piece of this that we're looking at. And it's how the commissioners feel on that. And that's why we wanted to bring it to the commissioners to just, because right now the committee is held up waiting to see continue or go back 30 days. You'd have to wait another 30 days posting and all that. And if I was a contractor person, I'd be like, there's enough work out there, I'll move on to something else.
I just, legal fee, there are people out there looking for loopholes like this here to jump through, just a easy way to get money.
The only thing I'm seeing in here, other than the may, will, shall, that Kevin keeps bringing up, is that they were supposed to be sealed. And they all came wide open.
But they were not bids, they were qualifications.
Right, and it says bids or qualification, an RFP or an RFQ. So that's the only thing I'm seeing.
And the reason for the sealing is so that they can't counter each other and all that, but
Right.
there has been no dollar amount set for anything right
No.
now, so
Well,
I'm
there
comfortable.
was one proposal that did include costs.
Yes.
Okay.
There were, no, a couple,
Or-
three actually gave us some.
Was there three of them? Okay. So there was three proposals that included costs, which was not asked for, but
Different,
Again,
different
was-
things,
Different
cost of
things.
different things,
Is that part of your screening questionnaire?
not really.
no,
Okay, so you took that
shouldn't
factor out of
be.
it to level it out?
correct.
Okay, so that part's been leveled out.
Right, what we're looking at is qualifications only, but then during our meetings, we came up and said, well, that may not be the right thing to do for the taxpayer, that we should consider cost. There's a cost to get the bond vote, and then there's a big cost after that.
Yeah.
So we were gonna level, we were basically going to ask for
Fee structure.
fee structure.
Which is
So
fair.
carrying forward after bond vote, what percent,
On a percentage basis.
because that's generally what the design build, we would want a guaranteed maximum price. So in the interview letter, I wish I'd brought my draft, but we're basically spelling it out, that this is what we would like you to discuss at your interview and give them, basically so we can screen each one fairly.
So it sounds like you're leveling it out. You're gonna send a letter of interview, notification, whatever you wanna call it.
Right.
And you're gonna level out any areas of, this is part of what we're looking at for a cap and things like that, so that all invited know, okay, that's a piece of it, so either they've submitted it or can adjust it on the thing, so we've,
Right. And we'll be giving them a schedule.
yeah.
I did have one concern that I did not address at the last meeting, but there was discussions about only inviting 3 of the 5 for an interview. And I think, given where we're at and the concerns that the chief has raised, and that obviously the commissioners are experiencing, is that it would be appropriate to invite all 5
So,
of the contractors who submitted a proposal, if you will, to participate in the interview process.
Well, we already have the spreadsheet, the scorecard that we all agreed on, so based on qualifications only, you can select the top 3.
I agree.
What happens is you end up, if somebody's not, if you've already rated, because we agreed we were gonna rate them before their interview. And if you've already got somebody that can't even with a full 20% interview, and you allow the one that didn't have an architect to bring one on, you already can narrow it down, and you're wasting the lower scoring contractor's time. Unless they're all in a tie. If they're all in a tie, then I agree, you interview them. But if you want to interview all 5, I guess it's, to me, normally when you do our RFQ, you shortlist usually 3 contractors, or, you know, if you're doing engineers, whatever, it's usually 3. You pick the top rated 3 based on their experience, and you don't interview
The rest.
the rest.
So, it comes down to the commissioners where they kind of stand on this. I mean, I can gladly throw a motion out there if we want, but it's just if there's reservation or not, this is the opportunity to discuss it. Any pros or cons?
I just, legal fees, I don't get stuck again.
Yep. Yep, and that's a definite con to be cognizant of, that it's a little bit outside the process and someone could, but I think that we've done everything possible to be straight up, and there wasn't soliciting of favorites or anything like that. It was reaching out to, from a website, an established website. So it's the companies out there and stuff like that. So I think that every part to be objective and impartial, they all were sent to the station direct, the packets and all that, and then they were dispersed, so. Trying to do everything we thought was right, but it wasn't quite right. So.
And that's, if you want to look at blame, that's my fault as the committee chair.
Part of me not having the policy in front of me too, so I mean, it is what it is. It's water
Well,
under the bridge.
and it's also experience in doing that sort of thing. I mean,
Yeah.
municipalities do things certain ways, and I would assume that that the fire district, same way, but nothing was done wrong. It's just that it wasn't done
Right.
consistent. Consistent with what other municipalities would do, or fire departments would do. But it's still a fair competitive process.
That's what I thought too.
And if you don't move forward, you're not going to get anything in time for next meeting, and it will be definitely the following meeting that you'll be looking at just enough design for a bond fund. It kills a year.
thoughts?
I'm battling in my head right now.
Okay.
Well, it kills a year, but at the same time, it also gives an opportunity for perhaps more participation from the wider community. When you look at, we get started late because it took a long time for the committee to get established and then off the ground. Many meetings, we barely had a quorum because we have such a small committee. I think now we're in a much better place than we have been up until now, but we started this process in September, so we're 8 months in. And if you make the decision to wait or to redo the process following the perceived purchasing policy, because I'm not going to agree that it is a must, it's a may. But if you make that decision, yeah, it's going to slow things down, but you know what? Maybe it gives an opportunity for more participation from a wider group of the community, which makes it more viable to pass at an annual meeting. We've been trying to get a new fire station for an awful long time. I don't want to see it messed up. I don't want to give anyone any opportunity to say, well, you didn't do this, and to cast doubt on the process or on the contractor or any part of this, because you guys need a new fire station desperately. And to go through this and have it shot down at the annual meeting again because somebody stands up and says, well, I heard that Kevin Cates has called his buddies and got them to bid on it. I don't want that to happen.
That's a good point, and I brought it up at the building committee meeting. Right now, if we stay on the path we are right now, we can squeeze in maybe one public hearing on the project to get input from the public on maybe things concerns that they have that maybe we didn't address. If we postpone it or follow a different process, we can certainly have more public hearings similar to what the Tilton Police Department had, where they had, I think, 3 or 4 public hearings on the input in the process, and by the time it got to the district meeting, it was pretty much a slam dunk. I mean, I don't know how many people voted against it, but it wasn't many.
And that's kind of the standard that I was holding things up to, is that look what the committee did to get that new police station approved. And I went to those public meetings, so the informational meetings, so that you could ask questions and be informed about, how are we going to spend this.
And the committee took those.
They did.
Like
Yeah.
there was one, I think we had a bump out in the back, and someone was like, well, geez, that's more corners, so let's square it off.
Yeah.
And
But some of it was just informational, like asking questions. I remember sitting upstairs here, listening to the presentation that they made. That got the community to buy into this. And those, in my mind, are vital to the success of this project. And we can't afford to half-ass it.
if you don't do it right, it sets you back 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. And by then, the chief will be retired and he'll never get to have a new fire station.
I've had some fire stations, they're nice,
But
but they're not doing out there.
They don't put out the fires.
No, they don't, but then it'll just be, 4 or 5 years from now, it's oh, here we go again.
Right.
And as much as I hate to say it, maybe that's the decision that needs to be made. So there's no doubt. And I'm hearing doubt over here. And I'm hearing doubt over here. The only one that's not is John, because he's participated in the process all along. And if you guys don't feel comfortable with it, then just say no.
Kevin, if it's if it's delayed, like, okay, if it's delayed, are we talking a 90-day delay? Is it a 1-month delay? I mean, how long is it gonna take you to interview 3 to 5 contractors? Is it like a meeting?
No,
Be all in one
no.
night.
They all come in?
All in one night, we were looking at dates at the beginning of June.
Okay, I didn't know how that worked. So,
If the decision's made to, go with our request for quotes or qualifications, then the delay will be until the following year, the annual meeting in 2023.
No, I understand that part. I'm talking about your process, the committee's process, progress process, however you want to use it. Okay, if next week or the first meeting in June, or whatever that might be, was when you were going to set up these interviews, is that now going to push it to September? Is it going to push it to July, August?
If the commissioners decide to advertise, to come up with a document that we will advertise. It will be advertised according to the policy for 30 days. They will be received. There's a date by which they will be received. Once they're received, there's a date on it that says that it will be publicly opened. We will open them. We will review them, grade them, score them, and then schedule interviews, which I would say would probably bring us into September-ish.
Yeah.
Right. Essentially, we would be stopping right where we are now, and you'd be adding that advertisement, and you'd receive the proposals, and we'd have to re-review
Right.
the
Those
quotes.
proposals.
So 2 months.
Yeah, 2 to 3 months at max.
Assuming you get contractors to
To
respond. But I think maybe you could call the contractors and say, look, we've got a little hiccup
You can contact them, but
after it's been
after it's been advertised.
Well, actually before, you can let them know that we're not accepting,
procedural
we're
error.
not
Yeah.
accepting any of the submitted qualification packages. The project will be advertised.
And everything will be in writing of what we were going to require on your submittal. And
Yeah.
we would certainly welcome your submittal again.
We could quickly, because we have it basically, put together what we're looking for, what our RFQ is.
Yeah, that wouldn't take much time.
Right.
Does that need to be approved by the commissioner, or can the committee do that?
So
Commissioners.
Commissioners would have to
Do it
approve
with
it.
chief.
I think that's the right thing to do, though, is, so I just, legal fees, all it's gonna take is one person to find out.
It's not even that, Paul. Legal fees are one thing, we don't want to spend good money after that, but I think it's like, the chief intimated, and I came right out and said, if somebody, all it takes is one person
Yeah.
to stand up at the annual meeting and say, you guys didn't do,
Yeah, I agree with you.
And those people exist
Yeah,
Really,
there's people that look for stuff
there's
like
in
that.
these communities, yeah.
because there's people who don't want a new station to be built at any cost.
That's
They're
right.
not gonna do anything in their power to stop it.
Yeah.
When's your next meeting?
A week from tomorrow.
May 9th. 9th?
Well, we talked about changing it to a Monday night. right?
Oh, that's right, we did, I forgot.
But I don't know
Yes.
whether we ever agreed on that.
No, we did.
It was,
We did.
the last I knew it was tentative
Right.
for May 9th.
Well, I think we were kind of waiting to see what the outcome was from tonight, so.
Tentatively May 9th.
Yeah.
So I think that we can continue discussing it. Does someone want to make a motion, or is there more? I mean, we've really looked at it from all angles here, and so it's pretty much now down to conscience of how you want to do it. I know that I openly am comfortable with what we've done with the process, that it would meet the scrutiny, in my opinion, and it would move the process, continue moving the process forward. I personally don't want to lose any momentum and risk going into another year or something like that, because people are still asking about the last station committee, so there is a momentum out there that we still need to keep, and if you give it up for another year, they're gonna say it's just like history, every couple of years it's coming around. That's my concerns with it, as one person. What do you guys think?
I guess my philosophy is it ought to be done the right way. It ought to be posted. And there again, I feel bad for the contractors. But if they, if they're reputable, then they'll bid on it again. If we explained it and what happened, I don't think there'd be a problem with it. And you may not even get any more. Maybe still a 5. But there again, even if you get that one, that at least we did what was right.
Imagine at the district meetings, one person gets up and said, I watched and you guys argued about this, and it just, all your hard work is just whoosh, flushed. And I mean, if we had, I'll put it, if the committee's able to come up with an RFP, RFQ, whatever, for this commission to approve, I mean, the chair can call an emergency meeting and we can come in and approve it and get it out. And, I mean,
I think it's important for us all to remember what our goal is with this committee, is to finally get a fire station approved by the voters to be built. That meets the needs of where the fire district is at today. Because that's all we can do is for today. We can't plan out 50 years or whatever. And if one good thing is that the last committee that I was also, Luis and I were honored to serve on, never brought anything to the voters.
Just a report, which was a year later because of COVID and everything
Right.
else.
So hopefully there is still some momentum going from that, but it's not as though we're going to go to the voters again and say, and they can't say, well, yeah, they're with another plan, because it's been, we didn't bring them a plan.
we could
2
build a
years
fleet
ago.
of fire stations with the plans we have. I mean, big ones, small ones, built on the hill, small.
And we're laugh about it, right? But we paid good money for all those
Trust me,
plans.
look at the
those
town of
designs.
Tilton for police stations. I mean,
Yeah.
Trust me, I know.
Right, and we don't want to do that.
Probably spent $100,000 on planes.
So,
Uh,
back to the at hand.
I don't know if we have to make a motion or not.
That's,
I make a motion that we delay or
that we
redo.
offer
the process.
guidance to the station committee plan to submit a request for qualifications or request for proposal?
Qualifications.
Request for qualification to the commissioners to be put out in accordance with the purchasing policy.
Yes.
Right.
Just what John
So
said.
it's not just gonna be qualifications
Okay.
this time. I think we should ask, it'll be a request for proposal.
Yeah.
But
So
it'll be a
qualifications and
components, and we'll
proposal.
define everything so that we're gonna,
I don't know
we're
if
gonna
we
be
have
asking
something
for-
from a past committee that you can kind of use as a template. And
Well, I think one of the good things is you got 2 people going to the symposium, this obviously this program.
But not for 3 weeks.
Yeah, but you're also adding Paul Blaisdell, who's a pretty talented individual, to the group as well.
Yeah.
So,
his mind works different than everyone else in this room.
and there are
Yeah.
guidelines.
There are.
There are
Yeah.
engineering guidelines, there are contractor guidelines.
Yeah.
We'll use a source.
Yep. Okay. So you made a motion to realign the direction in alignment with the purchasing policy?
Yes.
I'll second it.
You got that kind of noted in a way that it makes sense?
It will come out making sense.
Okay. So we got a motion, we have a second. Any more discussion? Please, none. All right,
Call the question.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, so 3-0, we got through it. Okay.
Now, I have a question.
Oh, you have to wait till the next meeting.
Okay.
Now, go ahead.
Well, it was already discussed, right? Prior to advertising this request for proposal, are we gonna contact those 5 contractors that have already submitted information to the committee to let them know why it's being
I
advertised?
think that's appropriate.
I think
That
it
is
is appropriate.
appropriate.
As a procedural
I
error.
agree.
Yes.
A procedural error was made.
Who makes that contact?
That's what I was about to go to. So
I-
the chair of the committee comfortable, or Kathy, or as representative, or I can, or how do we want to do that? Because I was thinking the
Well,
same thing as what's
all of the
proper.
information went out through the chairman of the committee.
I'm fine with that.
So where you've had all the contact with them, I feel it's appropriate for you to contact them and explain that there was a procedural error and we have to go through the advertisement portion
I'm in
for
favor
the
of that.
request.
I'm in favor of
Yeah,
it.
I agree.
So it will go back to the station committee to handle it, and I think that's a great way of doing it.
But I think that the 3 of us sitting up here, if you had something to get out quicker, we would come in,
We'll make it happen.
we'll make it happen on some type of
Emergency meeting.
emergency meeting.
Well, I think at this point, the time isn't gonna be an issue anymore, because we're not gonna have a bond vote next. It'd be very highly unlikely
It was gonna be pushing it to get it done
now.
if we continued on.
And as you brought up before, that, you know, or the chief, someone brought up, you know, the in Tilton, the police committee, you know, they had hearings, and this will allow it and build that momentum
Exactly.
and get everyone excited about it, and then, you know, this is what they have, and go from there.
Right. It'll give you plenty of times for all the hearings you need.
Yeah, it's all about building that support, so that there's no question in people's mind at the annual meeting that, yes, this is the right thing to do.
Or that at least you listen and address their concerns and explain why we still had to do it, even though they may disagree, but acknowledging their concerns and doing everything we can to make the whole process work and address appropriately. You're not gonna win every single person over, but listening to a person and showing the pros and cons of why we still went that way, even though they disagree, at least they can agree to disagree, and
Well, we have to make 67% of the people agree.
yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Which, in attendance, that could be 67 people,
that's-
unfortunately.
All right.
Thank you
So,
for coming.
yes,
tonight.
thank you for all that.
Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work.
Yes. I'll get back to the meeting quick.
I
Okay,
asked too
so-
many questions.
No.
No?
So the meeting is definitely on the 9th?
Yes, and I'll
Thank you.
put an email out to the
Thank you.
Okay,
to
perfect.
the committee members.
Because I'll be able to get to that one
Then
before
I'll
I
get
go
it.
away to the thing, so
Yeah.
a chance to grab ideas of what to really be digging for when I'm there. And Matt too.
All right, good night,
All right.
everybody.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you again.
Keep up the good work.
All right, so, next thing,
There'll be plenty of architects to talk to that.
yeah. Next thing to discuss is elected officer salaries. I believe that was in relation to the,
It's in relation to several things.
oh, okay. And is it all that can be discussed in public?
I don't see why not.
Salaries are one thing, as long as the personnel, things, we have to keep it kind of,
It's positional.
It's positional, it's
more
not,
than- Not personal.
okay. I just want to make sure.
right. Well, as you know, an email was forwarded to you today from the treasurer.
It was?
Yes. And Paul, you probably didn't see it.
I didn't see it.
I didn't.
So I brought one copy if you want to read it and pass it.
What time was it sent?
429.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, that was from Catherine.
I'm good, I have it. It's paper if you want.
Oh.
So essentially, we had a concern in regards to a approved budget line that was approved by the public, and a concern on a position where it was reduced as part of the budget process, and a question about whether the commissioners intend to increase the amount or leave it as the approved budget line, is in the best way of phrasing it, I think.
What was the old number?
So the commissioners set, in the budget process, the commissioners have where they set the amounts for each elected position. During the process, after the commissioners saw it, the budget committee made adjustments to that, which raised some and reduced other elected positions. And then we had the public hearing, and then there was the district meeting action where the budget committee's budget was voted. The question is that it's not the budget committee's job to set salaries for elected officials, and that's essentially kind of what they did.
The answer to your question, Eric, was 1,500.
But what are the other ones?
That was before or after? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, the commissioners was 4,500 for all three, so that would have been 1,500 each. The clerk was 1,000, the moderator 500, the treasurer 1,500. And it was the
What was the
clerk,
moderator?
500.
So that didn't change.
That didn't change.
Okay. So it's really just the other ones.
Yeah, the treasurer and the clerk.
And what did they go down by, or
The clerk was
Went down
cut by
$250.
$250,
750?
and the treasurer was cut in half.
Yeah.
Apparently that was my motion.
Yeah,
I don't remember why.
Okay.
and the budget committee increased the commissioners.
Which I did make a motion to reducing.
That's how it works for me.
Kathy, I have a question, just because I'm not familiar with it. So we have a voted approved budget.
It's a
for
bottom line budget,
For these positions, correct?
yes.
We've talked about, the clerk position kind of being up in the air right now. Does an individual elected in that position still get that money
Yes,
because they're elected?
yes.
Yes.
And because they were appointed, they still get it.
Mhm.
Yeah, no kidding,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
You gonna run next year?
Hmm?
Gonna run next year? Just don't show up?
Just go for the clerk position.
I
It'd
guess
be easier.
it's just like being on administrative leave.
Yeah.
You get
Paid
paid. You
administrative.
get paid, yeah.
There's
Hey,
two kinds of
good
paid
pay.
administrative leave.
Yeah.
I mean, administrative leave, paid and unpaid.
Yeah, this one's
Yeah.
paid.
She's paid.
So you're talking $1,000.
Mhm. But it's
I think it's more a principle than.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm just-
yeah, I mean, line items were put, I mean, yes, it's a bottom line budget, and I so much hate that fact. I am a very precise black and white where it's line item. That was a line item approved by the public. Whether we agree with it, disagree with it, I personally, that's what we put before the public, and
But no, you didn't put it before them, the budget committee did.
but the budget
But
committee,
they voted on it.
the public voted on that based on the budget and the line items in front of them. That's just how I feel on
Was
things.
that line broken out in their version of the budget?
And what was put, handed out?
Yeah, I don't
I don't
remember.
think so.
I don't
No,
remember.
I don't think it was.
I don't think so either. Oh,
It's just-
itemized budget for district meeting. I did send a copy of that. It was broken out.
Okay.
But
No one said, hey, why did
No.
that go up and that go down?
people don't pay attention to that.
No, I know,
That's the least thing to pay attention. They look at,
but it's, we were
But
already for an hour and a half.
When you,
Lawnmower.
when you discussed it, when you spoke to it, you were speaking to the bottom line. You weren't speaking to the line, did separate lines.
I know. So what do people think?
Well, how is it up to, I mean, people vote, that's what they voted for. How is it up to us to treat?
well, if the budget committee put in there, $6,000 for the commissioners, each, it still wouldn't have been discussed. It would have been passed at that rate. I mean, it's a non-item of discussion during budget, at the budget meeting and budget hearings.
At district hearing.
That's what district hearing and district meeting. I just personally don't think it's the budget committee's
And the amount of
job
responsibility.
to set the wages or salaries of elected officials. I think, if anything, it should be in the bylaws, but barring that, I think it should be the commissioner's duty to set the elected official salaries. And that's 100% my opinion.
What's his job actually consist of?
I have a question.
He has control of all the funds
I have-
as the treasurer.
I have a question.
Yes?
In a regular municipality,
Mhm.
if there's an elected position, that number is suggested, but really, it's not set by the budget committee.
Right.
Where these are elected positions, are they not set by the budget committee?
They shouldn't be.
I say that because
It should be their suggestion.
in the town of Tilton, there was a position that's elected,
Mhm.
and for years, it was, I don't want to say that, I don't know, it was changed, but found out a few years ago that that was incorrect, and it should never be touched by the budget committee. That person, whoever's in that elected position, puts in their recommended number, and it's up to the voting body to decide whether or not that gets approved or not.
Right.
Right.
And
So I
the-
don't know if these being elected positions fall into this.
It should fall under that same category because all of the positions are treated, the elected positions are treated the same
As if it were.
as if it were a municipality rather than a district.
It says that right in the RSA.
Mhm.
So the commissioners have the same power and authority as selectmen would.
And they don't have any say in the, they recommend the bottom line budget, which would include that salary.
Right. And because you don't meet with the elected officials to discuss their salaries, you have always set them.
So again, this is again my personal opinion. I personally think that the commissioners are underpaid for what they do, the time that they put in. But at the same time, I know what the treasurer does, and I don't feel that his position salary should be cut in half either. It's, I think the other salaries were appropriately, for the time involved in the other positions, weren't far off. But I know the time and effort that the commissioners put in and the responsibilities of the commissioner's position is worth far more than what the commissioners are being paid. And also at the same time, I know the time and effort that the treasurer puts into his responsibilities to the fire district and his knowledge and input and advice as to how we move forward with some of our funds has been very valuable. And as a result, the budget committee chose to recommend half the salary that he normally receives, which is not very much to begin with, really, considering the times and services and his expertise in that position. It's just, it doesn't make sense to me. Again, this is my personal opinion.
Mine as well.
But are we overstepping boundaries
No,
by if we, it was voted on, this is what it's voted on. Are we overstepping our boundaries by saying, we're gonna do this here? And I just,
Technically, no.
I have a question, just to counter that.
Yeah.
If we had to make an adjustment to, just because it's on the same page, heating fuel, because the price of natural gas skyrocketed this winter, we would have to make a change somewhere in the budget to offset that. I always say that because looking at that, it's
Yeah.
42.3% spent, and we're 33% of the year, so at some point, but we are under legal.
Hopefully we come in the summer and we won't be spending much of it right now.
hopefully, if this weather keeps up, we will.
Again, it's the bottom line is what is actually voted. It's not itemized.
I understand
And that's
that.
part of it's part of the RSA. It's a bottom line budget, and the commissioners have the ability to move money wherever they see fit.
and I agree with you, but I just don't want it to come back and say, we voted on this here, now they're doing whatever they want after they've already voted. No, this is what they voted for. I don't want them to come back and say, yeah, you guys, we voted to do this here and you guys just changed it anyhow. There are people out there and there again, I'm not disputing his pay, because he probably should, I don't want to get caught.
Well, but then again, my own opinion is, I would expect you, as our commissioners, as a taxpayer, to protect me from someone like our clerk, who did nothing, and now we've got to expend it to have somebody else do it. And we're in trouble with DRA because she didn't do her job. I would hope it was a commission. I get it, how this whole thing break down, and is there a way around that? I don't know, but, and I'm just complicated.
Yeah,
I apologize, it just,
I don't know, it's just.
So, my thought, I'll chime in, it is a bottom line budget, and you know my feeling on bottom line budgets. I look at each line and I kind of have the intent of spending up to that amount per line, and if there's money left over at the end, great, we did our job for the taxpayers and that's money going back to them. If you were to increase this money, where would it come from? What line is going to have to be sacrificed? I would want to know that before I would consider moving dollars.
So I'm unaware of the email that went out today. I did not get a copy of it. I was in the meeting, so I haven't had time to think about it, but.
Essentially was asking what the commissioners felt on the matter, which is closed out.
Here, pass this down.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, I have the gist of the conversation.
That is part of what, it's a bottom line, the public expect, and we're trying to get that faith in the commissioners back, that we're not just moving money around, because you hear this with town meetings, you hear this with school meetings, you hear this with with everything, that they just do what they want, they don't care, because it's bottom line. And I'm trying hard to get away from that.
Sure.
So, and that's the biggest thing, is that if a dollar amount is going to be crossing a line because we needed fuel oil from that, I want to know beforehand where that projected money, are you going to take it immediately from training this early in the year? Are you looking at this piece that we know that we can then shave off, rather than doing it afterwards? I'd want to,
I'm looking at office supplies.
okay, it's something I would want.
Another one I'd be looking at is legal services, where we have $30,000 in there right now.
I wouldn't want to touch that.
I don't, maybe just not yet, but I would look at it, and see what happens,
I'll have the bill for mediation.
That's one place. Office supplies is one place.
I think that's part of what will make a factor in the decision to even consider, is that we would have to commit kind of.
Office supplies is at 3,000, and, let's see.
Crank call probably.
Don't
Your
just
warranty
office.
is about to expire.
Yeah, my warranty on the truck that they don't even know I own.
Well, they know you own it. It's just a blanket warranty. Oh, you get on your side.
I get it on both, yeah.
Oh, that's good.
They're linked together.
Last year, we spent $1,974
Total,
total,
how much you got in there?
3,000.
3,000.
So we can cut that right down right now and save some money, right?
Possibly, it just depends, you know,
Depends on
But
how
I-
much paper we need to buy for everybody and
yes.
things like that.
But the
So-
way it looks like right now, we've got the money in that line.
So that's one thing, if we're considering this, that I would hopefully want that we consider identifying the source of where the money's coming from, if we were to do that.
Right.
Um,
And that's the one that pops right to mind at first.
I mean, I'm trying to be a good steward and save every cent I can for the public. So theoretically, now we're spending out money that we could have saved because the salary was cut to $750, and if it went back up, well, now that $250 or $500, whatever difference that we pay out is something that could have gone back to the taxpayers. And I tried very, very hard to do that.
Could
But
you,
it's
Does
up
the
to
decision
everyone
have to be made tonight? Is there like a deadline on it or anything?
No, but it just depends on when people request.
what about custodial supplies? Take half from there and half from the other one. Custodial supplies is only 8% spent, and we're 33% of the way through.
what are people thinking that we want to do with that deficit of $750?
Well, last year, we spent almost 4,500
Oh,
in office and custodial supplies,
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
so,
all right.
I mean,
I'm just
Yeah.
looking at what we got
Yeah.
now.
I
I
know,
think it's just one of the things, the cart before the horse. It's like, where do the commissioners think on this? Is it, if the money was to be found in an account and identified in advance, are commissioners in favor of increasing that reduction of $750 back to an amount? Whether it's $1,000, $1,250, $500, what are our thoughts?
Vehicle repairs, we have, for unanticipated expenses, we have 25,000 in there. With the newer vehicles, I don't anticipate spending that much in unanticipated
Did the ambulance come
expenses.
online sooner than?
You still have a tanker or a ladder that we just put money into and a rescue. You don't think we're gonna spend that money?
New springs, you got a $4,700.
So really, I think what the first step is, where do people think about an increase or not? Because it's great that, it sounds like there's
I think that,
pots.
I think we're doing him a great injustice by leaving it cut in half. With the amount of responsibility that he has, it's not a, it doesn't leave a good feeling for anybody.
Appreciate that input.
Do what? Take $500 out of my salary and put it towards his. So reduce the commissioner's line by 500 and put it in there. That's half of your money. There you go.
It's more than half,
That's 1.5. That bring him to $1,250.
yes.
Oh, all right. No, you told me his pay was,
It was 1,500
They
before.
reduced it to
They reduced it.
750.
right, so I'm saying put 500 in there, it puts it to 1,250.
Right,
Correct.
Yeah, so now you're left with 250 to come up with.
right.
Okay, you come up with 250. I'm sure you can find 250 in here.
All right, well, back to the first question.
I
Where
just
do the
gave you-
yes, you did, but where do the commissioners stand on the line? Because I hear reservation over on this side. So, either that or I should make a motion and force the issue. But it's just, I know there's reservation
Fine,
on
I'll
this
make
side.
a motion to take $500 from line 43, no wait, if, section 4130, line 130.01, take $500 from there and move it to line 130.03, treasurer. Bringing that line to 1250.
So motion's been made.
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, it's now seconded.
Why has it gone this far without not saying anything?
Because he didn't know until he was,
He didn't, I mean, he must have saw it at the district meeting. He didn't see any of that stuff.
He wasn't,
no, he wasn't at district
wasn't
meeting,
at
he didn't
district
see
Okay,
any of
and he
that.
never got any of the,
No. And see, that's another thing, is the budget committee made these changes and never notified anybody. So they could just, you know.
I'm not disputing he shouldn't get the money. All I'm saying is, it's gone 6 months.
Well, it shouldn't be up to me to notify him.
No,
It's
no,
gone 2
not.
months, really.
It, you know,
Right.
Right.
I don't know, I just,
But when he asked, I gave him an answer.
I mean, I don't think it's right that Eric contributes like that there. I mean, I contribute if you want, if that means so much to him, I'll contribute the rest out of mine. I don't care. I mean, I'm not in it for the money.
I think it'd be more appropriate for us to find it from other places within the budget. And,
You only have $250 to find, don't worry about it, you can find it.
well, I don't think it should come out of your salary.
Too late, I already made the motion.
We can take the money out of office supplies, that's not an issue.
Yeah, but I would like that, I would rather see the people that voted this, show them that we're willing to give up our pay to make his right and not take it out of the budget. I'm willing to do that.
Mhm.
To show them that that's wrong what they did, the budget committee did. So we're willing to contribute so he can have it. I'm willing to contribute.
So what was your motion directly again there? So to bring his line back up to 1,500?
Well, I took the increase in my salary, so $500, moved it from the commissioner's 130.01, move $500 to 130.03, bringing that line to 1250.
Okay. So your motion was to do that. Well, I'm going to make an amendment to your motion to take $250 from my salary, so you don't have to do the full amount.
So if we were split 3 ways,
Mm-hmm. And that's showing faith in that, and it's showing to the public that we're not wasting their money, because it's money that was coming out anyways, and we're still being good stewards of the money of their salary and all that. So if stationery stays low, then that's money that's not done.
Right. Let's hope the cost of paper doesn't increase.
now they were the ones that gave us a raise, weren't they?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
The budget committee.
So see, we'll just throw back in their face what they did.
Yep. So amendment to the motion was $250 from each commissioner's salary to make up the offset.
It doesn't bring it all the way up, though.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
$250 for the
$750.
$750 loss.
No,
Right.
I'm not a mathematician.
It's okay. They cut him in half, which was $750. So with each of you giving $250, it brings it back to $750. So that'll make it $1,500.
I'll second
So you second the amendment.
the amendment.
So all in favor of accepting the amendment to the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, no opposed, no. Now that the motion is to make the motion to move $750 from that line that was spoken, $250 from each commissioner's salary to make up the difference of the discussed elected positions stipend. Okay?
Yeah, so that's the motion now.
Yep.
It was seconded, or does it need to be seconded again? That's my motion,
Nope.
so I can't second it.
You seconded, we
Paul-
vote,
Paul seconded the motion, the original
Yeah.
motion.
Yeah.
so
Well, why don't we just
rescind all motions.
rescind all the motions and the seconds
Okay.
and make it right the first time?
Done.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to move $750 from line 130.01 commissioner to line 130.03 treasurer.
Period.
Period. Done.
someone needs to second it.
I'll second it.
There we go, we got a motion and a second.
Okay.
Any more discussion?
No, I hope not.
Good. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, 3-0.
Okay.
We're out for my bedtime.
This is the longest meeting I've had. All right, what we got left is review of minutes. Everyone review the minutes? Had a chance to? Yep. Okay.
Get out of here.
Anyone have any concerns with anything in the minutes that need to be addressed?
Syracuse, they 12 bucks gone.
I'll make a motion we accept the minutes of April 5th, 2022.
And I'll
As
second
written.
Drive.
I'll second it.
Motion seconded. No, any discussion? Good.
Thank you.
All in
Great
favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? All right, 3-0 again. Only other thing we had left was Kent Finnemore, who wasn't able to make it tonight.
Right.
Okay, so
Kent, we waited for you until 8 o'clock.
you're the reason we're here. All right, manifests have been signed by all three. All right, so next meeting is scheduled for June 7th, 2022. I like having that on there, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think I can make it.
All right, barring that, anyone want to make a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Okay. Second?
I'll second it.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Undebatable.
3-0.
Okay, make them, what time?
At
8:01.
8:01. And now we can shut this stuff off.